Got another Q&A today. Got a lot of jam-packed questions here, and we're going to start it off with
a lot of details.
Yeah.
In fact, I chopped all of them down by 75%.
Wow.
And just like made it one concise question because a lot of them were like
You can remember the details?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I just read them, so I think I should be good. They're all of them except one or two at the bottom are Facebook group.
Oh, okay.
So we might not even get to those last two. We'll see.
Okay. So the first one is from Adrian Franklin. It says, is sodium in food a huge hindrance for weight loss?
Shout out to her for utilizing the shit out of Q&As.
Yeah.
I feel like I hear that name
Absolutely.
quite often.
There's a few that are always asking questions, which is great.
Yeah.
Which is really good.
Big tip to people who, two different people. The person who maybe can't afford coaching or isn't 100% sure or sold on buying coaching or feels like they can do a little bit on their own before they need to hire a coach to kind of take it to the next level.
Yep.
Utilize the Q&As. Like even other people's podcasts, like they're literally giving you their best information and answers in time for free.
For free?
It's like, why not ask and get super specific? Talk about yourself. Like it's just free help, you know? Yeah. And then the second person for coaches and stuff like that, I used to ask questions on podcasts. I would comment on people's pictures or posts on Facebook, stuff like that, just to get noticed. So, like, it's just a way. Like, I don't even have a question or need to say anything, but networking. I'm going to say something noticeable so this person sees me and then starts seeing my name over and over again until I'm ready to actually, like, start a conversation or introduce them, and then I'll have some rapport because they see me commenting on all their shit. So, I remember doing that for a long time and then going to a seminar and somebody was like, oh, dude, you're Cody Boom Boom.
You've commented on my thing 763 times.
Exactly.
But hey, you know who I am.
Dude, and the cool thing was he said that when I was a young trainer still. Yeah. And there was a group of, like, OGs in the training space that I really looked up to. And I would kind of, like, I was walking by to get a drink, and he called me out. It was Nate Green. Never forget it. We're in Florida at an event in Tampa. And it was kind of like, oh, shit. And then everybody was sitting there. And then I was kind of like in the clique for a little bit talking to everybody. Yeah. And it was like, whoa. But it's just because I fucking commented quite a few times.
Yeah, it's just virtually networking.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Want the question again?
Yeah, I do.
All right. She says, is sodium in food a huge hindrance on weight loss?
Yeah, she also asked about, like, processed meat and blah, blah, blah. So, I don't think so. Processed meat typically has high sodium, but really all processed foods have high sodium because sodium helps preserve the food.
Right.
So I don't necessarily think processed meats are bad because of sodium. It's more, a lot of them are bad just because it's bad quality. It's not sourced well. So if you get like Spam, it's not. Have you ever had Spam?
No, don't plan on it.
Canned ham.
No,
it's
foul.
Actually,
I don't know how I can say
if you cook it right, it's good. So, like, if you go to, like, a Hawaiian household, they know how to cook fried Spam and stuff like that, and it's fire with some, like, pineapple. Dude, it's good.
Fire.
Yeah.
It's deep.
Oh, trust me. I was very cautious
hesitant.
and hesitant. Yeah, but it was fire. It's usually just low-quality source, like the farm, where it's coming from, potential pesticides, stuff like that. That's really the dangers of processed meat because it's just low-quality meat. And that's just the same danger as buying low-quality meat in the store from the deli, you know. But if it's low-quality, it's low-quality, which is why we like people like Butcher Box, where it's all organic and grass-fed. But as far as sodium goes, sodium's not really a big issue. I know she was talking about for her kid. If her kid has because she was saying she buys canned soup for her kid and that has high sodium. If your kid has some pre-existing complication, disease, or issue that would need a low sodium diet, you would know because your doctor would be telling you. If your kid is healthy and a normal weight and all that stuff and they're active, there's really no problem with sodium. Now, the more processed food you have, the less added sodium you should be adding to your diet because you're already getting a lot of it from processed food. But the more whole foods you focus on, so like for me, I add salt to every single meal I cook because I don't eat a lot of processed foods. So I need to add salt in order to get sodium. And if I don't get sodium, my nervous system, I get sodium that has iodine in it still. Sometimes they extract the iodine because the iodine is going to help your thyroid, your nervous system, your thyroid, your muscles, trying to avoid cramping, having enough hydration, and getting a good pump in the gym. and your performance, your hydration, your pH levels. Like, so there's like a little trick I used to do with like athletes or people who are competing in CrossFit. I'd be like, hey, like bring pink Himalayan salt with you, and you're going to throw down a teaspoon or a half a teaspoon, even not much at all, of pure salt, like 30 minutes before your workout. Just throw it down with water, but they literally have a performance boost just from throwing salt back. And it's because of these nervous system muscular benefits.
Yeah. What's the main difference between doing Himalayan salt in water and like a Gatorade?
Pink Himalayan salt is just a higher grade, higher quality of sodium. That's all it is. So it has more nutrients still in it. A lot of, it's like, think of it like this, like there's like whole grain wheat bread and then there's white bread, right? White bread is called enriched flour, and it's basically like they remove everything from it and then they enrich it. They fortify it with like B vitamins and stuff, which is not that high quality, but organic Dave's Killer bread, whole grain, like it's all still there. You get the germ, you get the sperm, you get everything from the grain. So you get all the nutrients.
Gotcha.
Kind of similar, like pink Himalayan salt's going to have the potassium, the iodine, the magnesium, all those things that you want out of it. Gatorade, although it has sodium, you're just not going to get that big of a kick. You know, you can't drink Gatorade before and feel like a performance improvement.
Yeah.
It might help continue your endurance through the event because it's carbs coming in more so than sodium.
Yep.
But yeah, sodium is one of those things where you're going to feel like shit in and out of the gym if you don't have enough of it. So it's kind of one of those, I always recommend adding good salt, either table salt that still has iodine in it, or pink Himalayan salt to all your meals. But I caution that with people who are eating out a lot or are on a high processed food diet, which is not what we recommend, obviously. But
will the table salt like be obvious that it still has iodine in it?
It should say iodized on it.
Like on
It'll
the front label.
Yeah, so like, you know those, what's that brand? The blue tin, it's dirt cheap and has like the little girl
lady
on it.
Yeah, I have no idea.
So there's that salt. Then they have like kosher salt, and then they have iodized salt. You just get the iodized one.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so I use that on most of my meals. I use pink Himalayan salt in the morning for my eggs, and then I put that on my meat and veggies and all that shit. And it works well. I mean, it tastes good because it tastes like salt, but it still has that iodine.
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference. But it's so does it hinder her real question? Does it hinder weight loss? Not at all. Sodium levels, your body adapts extremely well to like fluctuations of sodium. So what happens is if you go from having a really low sodium diet to having a really, really high sodium diet, you will retain a ton of water, right? Because you have so much more solids pulling in water. But if you keep your sodium levels that high, you will flush that water out and you'll start having your baseline normal again. But your baseline sodium level is just going to be higher than it was before. Your body adapts to it really easily. So that's why it's like, well, what's the best amount of sodium? It's like, well, it kind of depends on how big you are, how much you're training, how much salt you've had in the past, how much salt you currently have. You know, you don't want to make big swings in salt. So if you're going to increase, it's a gradual increase, but I definitely don't tell people, like I recommend people I think, avoiding salt or sodium is a bigger hindrance on fat loss than letting some in, because you will see detriments in muscle growth, muscle recovery, nervous system function, thyroid, so on and so forth.
Touche.
So probably the complete opposite of what she thought.
It depends.
I was going to answer. Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's see here. Next question comes from James Ward. It says, how to have a successful comeback. Many of us are either returning or eyeing a return from a long hiatus from the gym. Where should we try and pick back up with volume and intensity, and how to adjust nutrition when calories or tracking wasn't a focus?
So the nutrition one we'll start with because that's easier. What to do with your nutrition if you, like most people went through quarantine and, you know, they really weren't tracking much. Actually, I think it went two ways. I think like half the people started tracking more because people were like, oh, I have all the control in the world, right? Like I can essentially control my entire diet because I'm stuck at home all the time.
Yeah.
So some people actually did better about tracking, and then other people just stopped tracking because they're like, well, fuck it. It's quarantine. I'm going to use it as a staycation, and this will be over soon. And then it was like, oh shit, it's not over. It's still not over. But for nutrition from that realm, I think it's actually really simple. Like if tracking wasn't a focus, start tracking.
Yeah.
You know, if you stop tracking during quarantine and you started eating intuitively, your calories may have shifted up or down depending on what intuitive eating looks like to you.
Interesting.
Some people who intuitively eat in a surplus, right? They're not tracking, so they end up eating too much and they don't lose weight. Some people usually people who have busy lifestyles or high stress, when they don't track, they don't eat enough. And then they fall behind on calories.
Yeah.
So the first step is really just tracking and see, like, in comparison to your maintenance, are you eating too little or too much? Like, where did you float to during quarantine? And then now just reverse to that point or cut to that point, right? So I think it's as simple as start tracking, find your maintenance, and dial in your macros and be patient for a solid 3 to 4 weeks and just let your body get adjusted to tracking and getting consistent again. And then from there, you can make a decision. Do I need to make a deficit? Do I need to make a surplus? But don't overcomplicate things. I mean, if you weren't tracking, it's just like somebody like, okay, well, I want to start dieting. What do I do?
Yeah.
Start dieting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, just take a step. As far as training goes, it's almost like you want to treat your first few weeks as a deload. So if you
get back in the swing of things.
Yeah, if you normally do 15 sets per muscle group per week and you train 5 days a week and your deload is a 25% reduction in volume, so you end up doing, 11 or 12 sets per muscle group per week and you train 4 days a week, you would start there.
Yeah.
So start on your deload volume. Intensity, I think you should just plan on having this is the good thing about RPE and RIR. If you plan on having an RPE of 8 or an RIR of 2 to 3, let's say, 2 to 3 reps in the tank, then your intensity will scale itself. You don't need to really like back off, because as long as you go to a point where you just have 2 to 3 reps left in the tank, you're going to be fine, because after taking a hiatus, your set going 2 to 3 reps shy of failure is much lower now than it would have been if you trained all the way through quarantine, right? If you didn't take that break, right? Because you wouldn't have lost any strength gains. So if you disassociate what number is on the bar and just think of an RPE scale of like, I'm going to get to like 7 or 8 on everything I do, your weight will naturally solve itself.
There you go.
And then I think you should just take a deload from your volume, 25% reduction to volume, and you should be totally fine. And it also depends on how long the break was. If somebody, let's say like quarantine hit and their gym closed, but it open back up in a month, you don't really have to do much. Like, you'll be fine. I would probably still do the deload of volume just to make sure you don't overdo it, but your strength will still be there because it's a neurological thing. But if you were out of the gym for 6 months, now it's going to be a longer process of keeping the volume reduced by 25% for a solid probably 2 blocks, like 4 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can start increasing things. And you'll know, I mean, like at the end of the day, like DOMS is okay. Like, you should have some delayed onset muscle soreness within your first few days. You have a good lift. The next couple days you should be pretty sore. Maybe the 3rd day, but 4th day you should be cleared up.
Yeah.
If you're like sore 5 days later, you went too hard. You did too much for your body, and we got to pull back.
Getting 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah. Or
just saying rest.
Yeah. Or if you only got 4 hours of sleep, exactly. Yeah. And that's where it just comes down to getting all your ducks in a row.
Yeah.
Like, don't talk to me about program design if you're sleeping like shit, you're super stressed out, and you're eating fast food all the time. Like, don't worry about the advanced stuff, But
absolutely. All right, cool. We got next question is from Renee Arston. On a recent podcast, you talked about the myth of hard gainers. You spoke about how finding the right program is sometimes the key difference to progress or not. How do you know when it's time to change it up and try something different?
In the simplest way, when you're not making progress. Like, so if your progress has stalled out noticeably, it's time for a change.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's been 4 weeks or 16 weeks, something has to change. Now, if it's only been 3 or 4 weeks, the thing that needs to change is probably exercise selection. You can still, like, let's say you're doing a 4-day split with daily undulated periodization, which is what I like, or a concurrent method where you have like some low rep sets and some high rep sets scattered throughout the week. So you're hitting both rep ranges for every muscle group in your body.
For sure.
That split is perfect. So keep that, but every 3 to 4 weeks, change your exercises so you have a novelty stimulus and you give your body something new to progress with. But if you do that for 16 to 24 weeks, so like 4 to 6 months, now we get into a place where like you might be stalled out because the intensities, because the volume. Now you have to make a decision. And there's toggles. Do I increase volume or do I increase intensity? Because you can't increase both. You increase both, you're going to just get smashed. You won't last longer than a week. I think the best way to know which toggle to turn for yourself is really just a reflection of what your past has told you. So I know for me, my body, so there's 2 ways to look at this. My body responds really well to high volume programs when it comes to building muscle. So if I haven't done a high volume program and I want to like dedicate some time to build muscle, it's 100% what I'm going to do. And that's what I just did. Like, it was like, okay, I'm ready to build muscle. I'm going to train 6 days a week, turn volume all the way up. Intensity is going to stay like moderate because I don't want to go too hard every time or lift too heavy, but just do a ton of work. And I grew, right? Now, if I did that and 6 months later, which is exactly what just happened with me again, I look back and I'm like, okay, my body responds really well to volume, but I've been doing high volume training for like 6 to 8 months. My body's not responding the same way it was. Why is that? Well, it's because it needs a new stimulus. So what did I do? I turned down the volume, turned up the intensity. So now I'm going closer to failure every single session. Still not completely failing, but I'm lifting in the 70, 80, 90% of my max effort range versus the 60, 70 constantly, right? Doing 8 to 15 reps on everything, you can only lift 60, 70 at max % of your 1 rep max. So I can't lift super heavy. When I'm doing like sets of 3, 5, 6, now I can lift to almost 90% of like almost full rep max. So I'm doing way more strength work, but I'm doing way less volume, way less sets per muscle group per week. And I'm getting good results from it, but it's because it's a dramatic change from the last almost year of doing pretty high volume stuff. So I think the answer is simple. Like, look at your history. What does your body respond well to? If you haven't done what you know your body responds well to in the past, change it up. If you have always done the same thing in your past, then change it up. And it's just one of those things where what you change up to depends on your history, essentially, is what I'm saying. If you know your body responds to high volume and you haven't done it well, do that. If it does respond well, but you've been doing it for a long time and you've noticed plateaus, make a complete change. And I would like do something you've never done before if you're at that point. So I know for me, like, I got really, really good results with a full body program. I built more muscle on my lats and quads, and my numbers went up more than ever, and I was only lifting 3 days a week. But it was bench, squat, deadlift every single day. So 3 days a week, heavy bench, heavy squat, heavy deadlift.
Intensity up.
With intensity up.
Yep.
And then I would do some like sled work or something at the end. And I was like, this is way too much volume for me to grow, but I'm going to get strong. And I grew. And it's like, why is that? Well, it's because I haven't trained only 3 days a week ever, because as soon as I started, I went gung-ho and just started training every day. And I've never repeated the 3 big lifts every day in the gym and not done any curls and all that stuff. I just focusing on those, place so much tension on the muscle in a new way that I grew, right? And it's novelty stimulus. Now, if somebody was like, what's the best program for hypertrophy? I probably wouldn't say a DUP program 3 days a week, which is what that is.
Yeah.
But if they've never done it before, it might be a different discussion, right? Somebody comes to me and they've done boot camp classes or they've done CrossFit or done full body stuff. I'm going to give them an upper lower split and they're going to respond really well. If somebody comes to me and they've done like a bro split or an upper lower split their whole life, I'm going to give them a full body plan and they're going to explode. Like, it's a completely different stimulus. And based on the research that I've looked at this topic of this like novelty stimulus, it usually only happens if you've gone a year or more without using that training modality. It has to be like really fresh. So again, me doing this like conjugate style where I'm going really heavy, lower volume, I haven't done that in at least a year. Like I did the really high volume for about 6 to 8 months, but even before that, I was still doing generally high volume bodybuilding, just different splits. So it's been a long time since I've done like a really good low volume strength program. Because of that, I think it's going to work really well.
Wow.
So
you still grew.
Yep.
Wow.
I hope that's a good explanation. I mean, it's a hard one to say because it just is so dependent on the person.
Yeah.
But I think you should look at your history and then make that decision.
Totally. All right, we'll go to the next question, which is from Megan Simon. It says, I always work out early in the morning, typically fasted. I often hear that whey protein is recommended post-workout protein with carbohydrate. I do a smoothie with whey and frozen fruit a lot of the days, but it doesn't seem filling. If I can hit the same macros with egg whites and oatmeal, does that impact at all how the body uses the protein and carbs?
So I think in like if we're getting theoretical here, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You hit your macros. It's daily intake. If we want to get a little more technical, I would say it is going to have a different effect, but I wouldn't say one is better than the other. So in some regards, the oatmeal would be better because the oatmeal and egg whites would be better because, one, it's more filling. As she said, it'll keep her satiated longer. But two, it's a starch, and muscle glycogen is mainly glucose, which glucose comes from starchy carbohydrates. So you're replenishing your muscle glycogen with the thing that it needs. On the other end, the fruit is faster digesting. It's going to replace blood glucose, and it's going to refill liver glycogen, which is also really important. And the whey protein is going to be a quicker absorbing protein than the egg whites. So we kind of get in this battle of like both are good, but both aren't great. So what I would do is have the egg whites in oatmeal, but add fruit into the oatmeal. So now you have egg whites by itself, do whatever with that, and then oatmeal with some blueberries in it or something. Now you're getting that fruit to replenish the liver glycogen, and you're getting oatmeal to replenish muscle glycogen.
For sure.
And it could be any fruit. I just love blueberries.
That's what I was about to say. Big blueberry guy.
Dude, I love blueberries. I eat them every day. I was so like, what is it called? Disheartened? Maybe that's not the right word. When I went to the dentist, I was like, man, how do I get my teeth whiter? And he was like, well, let's talk about your diet. And I was like, oh, I eat really well. He's like, do you eat blueberries? I was like, every day. He's like, yeah, it's like the worst food. Worst food you can. I was like, man, I literally have two meals a day. I eat blueberries. He's like, it's the worst food you can have for your teeth.
Damn.
It's like literally like coloring purple crayon on your teeth.
Yeah.
He's like, what about coffee? You drink coffee? I was like, oh yeah, like 5 cups a day. He's like, it's like a horrible. That's why I drink so many rock stars now, because I'm trying to keep my teeth white. But yeah, that would be my recommendation. I think you'll be fine either way. Go with what like you can adhere to, but you know, you could also throw the oats into the smoothie. And I've done that too, where it's like I make a super shake with protein powder and frozen fruit, and then I just throw some oats in there. So I get that starch, but it's ground up and it's easier to digest, and I still get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Right. So that might be the ultimate, honestly.
Yep.
Because the whey protein's good.
Big blackberry guy.
You are?
Yeah.
Blackberries are nice.
Dude, I know.
The only reason I don't like them because the seeds get stuck in your teeth, man.
Man, I'd rather that than permanent marker on my teeth.
I mean, I think blackberries are just as bad as blueberries for your teeth.
Dennis didn't tell me that.
I didn't say I ate blackberries.
Yeah. I also don't eat blackberries twice a day every day.
Yeah,
but
true. Blackberries are fire, though.
They are.
I feel like, honestly, I would have any berry over any other fruit. Strawberries are fire. Raspberries are great.
Oh, over any other fruit.
Blueberries are great, yeah. I'll take
gosh.
berries over bananas, apples, oranges, pears, peaches, anything.
Yeah. That's a hard discussion, but
they're so good,
I
though.
love bananas. Oh
You
my
do?
God, yes.
Do you? Okay.
I eat a banana every morning.
Do you like them like, okay, which one is ripe? Is ripe when it's like starting to get brown?
Yeah.
Do you like it ripe or do you like it fresh?
Fresh.
Gross. Where it's like still kind of green and hard?
No, I mean, green is not ripe.
Right. Some brown spots.
Yeah, okay. One.
Damn, okay. I like
I don't like it green. I like it yellow.
I like quite a few brown spots on it.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, Josephine loves them like all brown.
they're just mush.
Yeah, and then she'll freeze it and make banana bread.
Like you open it and it just falls off.
Yeah. It's so
gross.
disgusting.
Yeah, but you need that for banana bread.
Yeah.
We put the bananas in the freezer once we're not going to eat them. And
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
Blake loves
I don't want to
banana
say a quarter, but I feel like a quarter of our freezer is frozen bananas. Like she's just like,
she'll make
"All right,
banana bread someday.
These aren't good. Throw them in the freezer."
Yeah.
I'm just like, jeez. But we get like 2 or 3 bundles from Costco. So
Yeah.
all right, let's keep going.
They're cheap as fuck too. That's one of the best things about them.
Yeah.
A whole thing of bananas at Costco is like $2.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You buy a little thing of raspberries, it's $6.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not 6,
Dude,
but
just
like
because
4.99.
bananas are just
I don't know.
blossoming.
Have
That's not
no
the right
idea.
word.
And they're better like from a standpoint of like trying to find organic. You don't need to because there's a peel. It's got a protectant. Berries don't have a peel.
From pesticides?
Yeah, so any fruit that has a shell or a skin, it's actually safer to eat not organic.
Do they just like plant banana tree? Because it's a tree. It's
Yeah,
not
it's a tree.
plant.
Yeah, it's a
It's
tree.
not like a, like a berry,
Yeah, berry, like a blueberry farm.
Yeah, or
I mean, a blueberry, I guess that's technically a tree. And technically a tree is a plant.
yeah. I mean, like Yakima, there's
But is a plant
thousands
a
of
tree?
cherry. Yeah. Plant tree?
Is a plant a tree? Because a tree is a plant.
Absolutely. A tree is a plant. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I don't know if a plant is always a tree.
It is.
Well, what about like a
Okay.
stinging nettle?
Yeah,
That's not a
you're
tree.
right. You're
It's a
right.
bush.
You're right. I think by definition it might be, though. We just don't know this.
We'll
All right,
find
so
out
next
later.
question is...
I got another. Yeah, like there was a question that me and Shannon were arguing about this the other day. What was it? Oh, what's the difference between a frog and a toad?
They're both frogs.
No, one's a toad, one's a frog.
Dude, a toad is just like an adult frog, I believe.
I don't think so. I think a toad are the ones that make, like, there's like a, Well, there's a bullfrog too. Bullfrogs are huge, and they make that.
They're all frogs. Frog is the umbrella.
No, amphibians is the umbrella.
Okay, if we're going that high, I mean, I think animals.
Creatures.
Is an amphibian an animal?
Organisms.
Right. This is not part of the Q&A. All right, we got next question from Tiffany Orlowski, another regular.
Animal Planet with Trav and Cody.
Yeah, it's a boomafoo. What are your favorite ways to tell? Wait, hold on. What are your favorite ways to tell you are lifting at appropriate RIR to build muscle without impacting recovery and performance in your next workout?
I think there's two ways to go about this. He or she brought up RP and
Tiffany.
Is it Tiffany? Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't listen to the name. Sorry, Tiff. I know you're a girl. She brought up RP, Renaissance Periodization, because they have a specific way of doing it, and they linearly progress sets. Gotcha. So what they do is week 1, your RIR is pretty low and your volume is pretty low. So you might be doing like 6 exercises, 2 sets per exercise with a 4 RIR. The next week you do 3 sets, 3 RIR. 4 sets, 2 to 3 RIR. 5 sets, 1 to 2 RIR, and then 6 sets, 0 to 1 RIR. So you're basically getting closer to failure and increasing volume. It's effective, but it's brutal because as the weeks go on, your training sessions get longer and way fucking harder. So your recovery is getting worse and worse and worse. But by the time it's at its peak, like maximum recoverable volume, you're not recovering fully. You recycle and you go back to 2 sets with a big RIR, and now it's easier to recover, and that's your deload, and you have the super compensation effect.
Totally.
I don't personally program that way. I don't really like programming that way. But I can't say it doesn't work because in theory, based on what I just said, I mean, clearly it works. And if you look at the results of the guys that use it, it works. And we talked about this on a recent podcast. I think it's reserved for dedicated bodybuilders because those are the guys that are going to be really committed to doing long training sessions and really being meticulous with their progressions over the weeks. Now, another way to do it is you could literally just stay at 1 to 3 RIR every single week. And then by the time you get to a place where what load was once 3 RIR is now 0 or 1 RIR, you need a deload. You take a deload, you go way lower than, so you're going like 5 RIR, drop volume, and then you repeat. I would rather do that. If you constantly say 1, 2, or 3 reps shy of failure, you're in the zone of making good gains and not going too hard to where you don't recover. You can train to failure on some things, like you can train to failure on a band pull apart or a dumbbell lateral raise or a sled push. You're going to be fine. It's not going to wreck you. If you go to failure on a deadlift or a squat or a bench press or even a dumbbell RDL and things that are more compound, you're going to get smashed and you're not going to be able to recover for very long. So in general, I would say like your accessory work that is easy to recover from, and everybody listening can justify what's easy to recover from. If you're doing a dumbbell hammer curl or a dumbbell lateral raise or a band something, it's going to be probably pretty easy to recover from. I don't think it's a debate. You can take those to failure sometimes or stay 1 rep shy away from failure because you're failing based on muscular fatigue and metabolite accumulation. It's different than your nervous system smashing, right? It's just your muscle getting so full that it's hard to move, which is easier to recover from than central nervous system fatigue. So you can keep your accessory and isolation works to that 0 to 1 RIR, and then you can keep everything else 2 to 3 RIR. So 2 to 3 reps shy of actual absolute failure. And if you do that, you'll always stay in the zone of making good gains and keeping recovery in a good trajectory. And then what you do is if I'm staying at 2 to 3 or 1 to 3 RIR every single week, I'm going to add load as the weeks go on because I'm going to get stronger. Right? I'm doing the same rep range. I'm staying a couple reps shy of failure. I'm getting good gains. I should be able to add load week to week and maintain that RIR, right? Because if I do 200 pounds and it's for 8 reps and it's a 2 RIR, well, if I do that again next week, maybe it's like a 2.5 RIR, just a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. But it should be easier because I just did it last week and I got stronger because I did it and I recovered from it. So after another week, I might be able to go 205, or I hit 200 again. I realize it's a 3 or 4 RIR. And it's damn, I got way more in the tank. Next week, I'm going to go up. So I would rather somebody stay about 1 to 3 RIR, 1 to 3 reps shy of failure on everything and try to linearly progress load over time. Maybe reps. So if you're doing lateral raises, you can add reps until you can bump up weight.
Yeah.
That's my preferred method. And as long as you're not going to complete failure on big lifts, you should be fine to recover. And everybody needs a deload. Remember too, like it's not just about how many sets you're doing, how much load you're lifting. It's about time too. If you've been just generally getting pretty close to failure, making good gains for fucking 10 weeks, you're going to need a deload soon because it's 10 weeks of training. It's a lot of accumulated energy being put into it. And that's okay. So just know that like deloads are normal. We all need them.
And you would think more frequently. I don't know if more frequent than every 10 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, 6.
It depends on the person.
And program.
You know, I have some clients who are training 3 or 4 days a week, and they deload every 12 weeks. Wow. But it's because they're like, for a good example is this is like a new female to lifting.
Yeah.
Right. She's not lifting at her max intensity yet because she doesn't know how. It's a skill.
Yeah.
So she doesn't need deloads yet. I've watched somebody do this where it was like, I never deloaded her because she didn't need it. And then it started becoming every few months, and then it was every 2 months. And now it's every 4th week is a deload because she needs it. Mm-hmm. We go 3 or 4 weeks of training hard, we give it a deload, and then we repeat. And typically I find that's where most people get to. You get to about anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks, you're going to need a deload.
Yeah.
It's every 4th week for me. So I have...
maybe that's just what I was thinking.
Yeah, and it's not even technically I don't even do really full deloads when I program because we have like a new week. Like last week was a new week, so RIR was a bit higher, so we can get used to movements, and that's kind of a deload naturally. It's just a little bit easier.
Yep.
Week 2 gets harder. Week 3 is really fucking hard, and then week 4 is a new program. We're learning new things. It's kind of somewhat of a deload again. So it's like you're kind of cycling in small deloads every 3 to 4 weeks, so you don't have to take a full real deload.
Gotcha.
Which isn't fun, just skipping the gym. But depending on the program, you can't do that. Like the last program I was on, I had to take a full deload where I literally would go from 6 days a week training high volume to 4 days a week of low volume, just fucking around in the gym because I just needed a break. And then I'd get back to it because there was no auto-regulated deload.
Yeah. For sure. All right, cool. Let's get to this. Next question is from Stacy Ormy. How do you help your fat loss clients navigate the holidays? Do you give them a diet break the week of Thanksgiving, jump back into it, a deficit until
Christmas?
Yeah, jump back into a deficit until Christmas or New Year's Eve?
In a perfect world,
yeah.
If I can, I typically in a perfect world, I would say we're taking a 3 to 5 day diet break around Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. One thing I've noticed is that if I go, hey, Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and the couple days after, that's your diet break. They usually get through Thanksgiving, maybe Black Friday, and they go, hey, I'm ready to go back to the deficit. Because if you enjoy Thanksgiving, like you don't want to eat for 3 days, because you eat so much food and it's so filling that I very rarely give somebody a full diet break on Thanksgiving and them actually use it. I say, hey, we're going to take 2 to 5 days. Let me know how you feel after Thanksgiving. And if they really enjoyed it, and I'm telling them to be intuitive and just, hey, like, don't track macros, just enjoy the meal. Like trying to fucking calculate what's on the table is just stupid. Like you're just going to be frustrated and stressed. There's no reason for it. Just enjoy the day. Email me in the morning. Let me know how you feel. And if they feel fantastic and they want to do it another couple days, great. If they don't go back to the deficit. Mm-hmm. And you'll probably feel better eating less calories the next day.
Yeah.
I don't like eating the day after Christmas, or Thanksgiving or Christmas, and then for Christmas, I usually would extend it. So it would be like Christmas Eve, Christmas, all the way till New Year's. So it's like a full 1 to 2 weeks, right? Where you're going basically holiday mode, right? On this occasion, I would track. Like for Christmas, I always say like, hey, track what's feasible and then estimate what you need to pull back on afterwards. So like for me, tracking Christmas Eve is really easy because all we do is eat crab. Like it's literally just like a huge crab feast and wine. So I'm like, okay, let me punch in a bottle of wine because I'll kill a bottle to myself and a pound of crab with some butter. Mm-hmm. That's easy. But Christmas morning, I don't even know. I wake up and Shannon's got some like apple strudel shit in the crock pot and there's like chocolate and I'm just like kind of snacking throughout the day. I'm not going to track that. Yeah. But I can kind of in my head estimate like how much I went over. I'm going to pull back the next day and then continue my diet break. But I mean, to make a long-winded answer short and easy, yes. I always try to factor in some kind of refeed or diet break during those holidays because there's no reason to add that stress. I'd rather put somebody in a bigger deficit leading up to it so that they can take that day off and it not affect them negatively than I would try to get them to track on that day.
Yeah. What's the difference between put him into a bigger deficit before, opposed to you put him in a bigger deficit after?
To me, it's just a psychological difference. So from a coach perspective, it's like, I want to prepare you or I want to punish you. You know what I mean? So a lot of people don't think about this. Technically, theoretically, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay.
And at the end of the day, like if you pull back before or
It's
after,
like
if your weekly
psychological.
if your weekly caloric intake's in check, it doesn't matter if you did it before or after. It's in check.
Yep.
But from years of working with people, and this is why like I really push like this kind of coaching on our coaches and what we do, is thinking about how that makes people feel subconsciously. You know, if you're pulling food after binging, I'm punishing you. But if I pull food before you get there, you're preparing for it, and then we don't have to punish you afterwards.
Yeah.
Right? You can just go back to normal. I'd much rather have somebody just go back to their normal diet after a really big feast of a day than have to restrict calories because of what they did.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Totally.
yeah.
All right. Let's see here. We got one. These are the 2 Facebook questions. One's from Cass. It says, I'm relatively new to weightlifting for about a year. I'm 29 years old, athletic female looking to build muscle. Could you give me some more information on functional muscle and FIT programs?
Yeah, real quick. FIT, F-I-T, is functional intensity training. It is full body, so it's 4 days a week of full body training, 2 days of conditioning. It's a strength and conditioning program. So that one's much more like, yes, you can use it to look good and change your aesthetics, absolutely, especially on a fat loss phase. But its main goal is like, I want you to be moving your most efficiently, so you're very functional in your movement patterns. You have good conditioning and good strength. Like it's performance driven, strength and conditioning. Functional muscle is a hypertrophy strength hybrid, so it's like a power building program, both of them, functional muscle 1 and 2. Functional muscle 1 is an upper lower split 4 days a week. Functional muscle 2 is an upper lower push pull leg split 5 days a week. Functional muscle 2 is a little more advanced, not only because there's more volume, but it uses a weekly undulated system. So week 1 is strength for the upper lower compound days. Week 2 is speed. Week 3 is strength, and you alternate back and forth between intensities. And then the push pull legs are always hypertrophy based. But it's a little more complex. Functional muscle is better for somebody who's a beginner. I think she said she had 1 year under her belt.
Yep.
I would probably go with functional muscle 1. That's going to be like the best foundational program that we offer on there. Yeah, and then obviously if you join the Taylor Trainer, there's more of those.
The FIT is the one you're recommending?
Functional muscle is.
Oh, for her?
Yeah.
Oh, but functional muscle 1.
Yeah.
How many week programs are these?
Functional muscle 1 is 12 weeks. Functional muscle 2 is either 12 or 16. I think it's 12. And then FIT is 8 weeks. However, the way it's designed, every single week is different. Huh. So perfect world, it's 16 weeks. So what you want to do is go through it once, and then when you get to the end, you start back at the beginning, but you're lifting heavier for all those movements. Because so like, for example, if you're doing a single leg quad dominant movement for 8 reps, week 1, it's a split squat. Week 2, it's a forward lunge. Week 3, it's a reverse lunge. Week 4, it's a Bulgarian split squat. Week 5, it is a deficit split squat. Week 6, it is a walking lunge. Week 7, it's a step up. So like, and I don't know if that's the exact progression, but the point is same muscle group, same intensity, but we're changing where the load is distributed. We're changing the center of gravity. We're changing our foot placement. We're changing our movement, which is why it encourages you to get better at moving. But because of that, you could repeat it 2 or 3 times, and it would just be like doing it one time, really.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question comes from Kara. She says, I'm currently in a 6-month deficit. I've been having frequent refeeds about 1 day a week and maintenance periods of 1 week every 5 to 6 weeks. Would this approach be best for sustainable results, or would just being in a deficit without any periods at maintenance work better?
I think the argument goes like with refeeds, diet breaks, and maintenance phases and stuff like that, you are more than likely going to have better adherence. So what we know from studies is like at the end of the trial, at the end of the fat loss phase, the results are the same, like as far as fat loss goes. However, usually when people take diet breaks, refeeds, or maintenance, they're usually more adherent to their calories. So they're usually going to be a little bit better with actually hitting their macros and all that stuff throughout the course of the diet. So you might be taking a maintenance week every 5 to 6 weeks. Well, those 5 to 6 weeks of dieting are going to be more on point because you took that maintenance block, and your performance might be a little bit better. Now, if you're only worried about fat loss, technically, theoretically speaking, deficit the whole time would get you there faster. But does it make you hate the process? Does it make your adherence lack by the end of it? Does your performance suffer because of it? So either there's no right answer is what I'm getting at. Either way is going to be a good route, and you're going to get to the end result. However, I probably would recommend having refeeds and diet breaks. I've never had a client where, I mean, I lie. I have had clients where it doesn't work as well, but most of the time it works really well. The only time I don't use diet breaks is if it causes like a trigger to binge. Like they can't have a high calorie day because they'll just like splurge. They'll go over the top, which happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think there's a right answer.
Gotcha.
I think there was one more question, right, from the Facebook. There was one about like the healthy at every size movement.
Well, you can ask it. It's not on here.
By Emma?
Okay. Well, there's 5 Facebook questions then, not 2.
Yeah, there's 2 email questions, sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, the other ones were all Facebook.
Okay. Well, the last one is going to be from Emma Becerra. What do you think about the healthy at every size movement? In quotes, is healthy at every size. Is there a place for this in the fitness community?
The reason I thought about this question is because I've heard a lot about this and nobody's ever asked that. So I was like, I want to dive into that one.
Yeah.
I have split opinions on it. So like, do you know what the healthy at every size movement is?
I could guess, but no, I don't.
It's basically saying, you know, like there are women who are overweight and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. And that's healthy.
Absolutely.
And my opinion on it is there are women that are overweight. And I mean, I guess it's men too, but I think the movement's mainly women. And that is okay.
Yeah.
Like I don't believe in fat shaming. I don't think that anybody should like degrade that person for any reason. Like you're not on a pedestal because you're fit or lean. However, I don't think it's healthy because studies show if you have too much body fat, there's complications. Like you will be more likely to have a heart attack. You'll be more likely to get these different autoimmune diseases. You'll be more likely to have cardiac arrest. You'll be more likely to have artery issues, hypertension, diabetes, joint inflammation, arthritis. Like the list goes on. Like if you're too overweight, issues come up.
Okay?
Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah, but what's the definition of overweight then? I'm personally asking. I don't know. Like some people are just bigger.
okay, I would say obese.
Okay.
I think overweight is fine because, you know, being underweight is, I think, so there's like a scale, right? There's like underweight, there's normal, there's overweight, and there's obese. I think sometimes underweight is actually more unhealthy than being overweight.
Yeah.
But being obese is not healthy.
Yeah.
And healthy at any size implies that every size is healthy, which that would mean that the bikini competitor who didn't reverse diet properly and is way too skinny is healthy too, and that's not true.
That's not
Her
true.
hormones are all fucked up.
Yeah.
And the psychology behind it, right? So I think that, and this is coming from somebody who, like, I was never obese, but I was heavier. I was overweight, and I got blood work done just through my doctor all the time, and I continue to get blood work done as I got fit, and my blood work got better and better and better. My hormones got better and better and better. My likelihood of getting a disease got lower and lower and lower because of it. So I'm not only proof, but science is proof.
Yep.
You know, if you're leaner without being too lean, then you're going to be healthier. So I think they have good intentions. Like I think the healthy at every size does have a place in the fitness community because I think that it has good intentions, and I believe at least that the intentions are that we shouldn't be shaming people who are overweight. We should be helping lift them up, because if I help lift you up, I get you more positive and motivated. You probably are going to make better choices and lose more weight.
Yeah.
Right. So me making fun or putting you down isn't going to do anything. So I think in that regard, the movement is great, and I think they're doing the right thing. However, I think they use a bad choice of words.
Yeah.
I think healthy at any size is incorrect, because we know for a fact that if you are obese, that you do have health complications. Now, that's okay. I'm not going to blame you for getting there, but you should lose weight. You should seek help. You should hire people like us, because we spend our lives and we're passionate about helping people in those positions. So I don't know.
Well, I want to know your knowledge or your opinion about the difference between overweight and like body structure. Like I was trying to say that, like someone is just built massively, like a football player, or compared to somebody at that size that is, what's the difference between big structure and overweight?
Yeah, so it's literally just body fat.
Okay,
so,
that's what I was thinking. But
so there's guys that are, I mean, we know people that are just thick bones, super tall. They're just big motherfuckers, but they don't have a ton.
people?
We use a different word.
Okay.
they don't have a ton of body fat on them.
Yeah.
When you have a ton of subcutaneous and visceral fat being under the skin, underneath the muscles, over your organs, you start getting things become more and more unhealthy.
Correct.
Now, the only unhealthy thing about really big structured people is really just they're more likely to have arthritis and joint issues because it's just a lot of weight, you know. I mean, even like the strongest man alive, Impact. Thor, he's like 400 something pounds.
What'd you call him?
Thor. That's his name. Yeah.
His name's Thor?
Yeah. I don't know if it's his real name or his nickname, but that's what everybody calls him.
Okay.
He's the world's strongest man like 5 times in a row.
Wow.
Like he's massive.
Yeah, he's got it.
Yeah, he's huge. And I mean, he's like 450 pounds, but he's not fat. Like, no, dude, look him up after this. He's not fat. He used to have like a big belly, but he actually, you know, Stan Efferding, the vertical diet?
Yeah.
That's his nutrition coach.
Okay.
He got lean. So he's not like, he's really not fat. I think he went from, if I remember correctly, he went from 450 down to 395, and then he bulked back up to 425, but lean. Yeah. So he's not fat, but he has some health problems. He has sleep apnea. I know that for a fact. I guarantee he has joint stress. Like, there's certain things that are just, like, his bones, joints, and organs are so big that he is going to run into some problems.
Wow.
Really, really large people don't live as long as average-sized people. It's a fact.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with body fat. But those are also really rare cases.
Yeah, definitely.
In America, usually it's more common to see people that are just really overweight.
Yeah.
Than massive structures.
Yeah.
But
like it's not funny at all, but just like the case of like a 7-foot 12-year-old or something that is just like,
dude, I went on this like fucking like just Google search binge one day. Yeah. And I was like researching. I was just typing like the tallest this, the biggest this, and the tallest man ever was like 7 foot by 12. Like literally, he lived till he was like 24. Like he died really young. But he was.
Did you say 7 foot by 12?
Yeah, he was literally.
12 years old. I thought you said 7 by 12.
No,
like, what?
8 feet. But I think he did get up to like 8 or 9 feet. Like he was massive. Dude, it's crazy. There's a picture of him and his dad when he was like a little kid, and he's just like towering over his dad. It's crazy.
That's sad.
They have like statues of him and shit. They do. I can't remember what state he's from, but there's
state. Dang.
Yeah,
there's a different country. Or?
No, he's from United States.
Wow.
Pretty sure.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go look up Thor and the 9-foot 12-year-old.
There we go.
All right, guys. Well, any announcements or?
Not that I can think of. No announcements today. Appreciate the questions. Keep sending them in. You guys send really good questions. If you're not in the Facebook group, go ahead and add that. I saw a bunch of you guys add yourself in. And 75% of you got my favorite TV show right. So that means you listen. They put Seinfeld. One person put Friends. I declined them from the group.
Oh, my gosh.
No, I'm just playing. I still accepted you. To me, it's like if you answer the question, I know you're not a robot. So I'll let you in. But get in the group. Ask questions. I post every week in there now asking for questions. Hit me up on Instagram, email, whatever. And, thanks again, guys.